dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now.
Yo, what is up, 24/7 Buff Fandemonium? It's your boy Swank. It's Tuesday night. It's 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That can only mean one thing. It's time for the K-Gun Report. Right here, Season 4, Episode 22. We came off a huge, enormous preseason win against the Indianapolis Colts. We're going to dive into all of that. But we have a very special guest joining us tonight. It is Nate from Circling the Wagons podcast, part of the Buffalo Rumblings podcast network, and we're going to get with him here. He's going to join us in a little bit. We're excited to talk football with him. We're going to get into a little bit of AFC East news, a little bit of Bills news, and break down all those positions from the game this weekend. So listen, I'm going to hit this intro. Just give us a couple seconds. We'll be right back. We're also going to rattle the reeds. Here we are, and here it is, another beautiful Tuesday night right here in the Finger Lakes, man. And I'm representing the Finger Lakes Mafia. My boy over here is repping the Finger Lakes Mafia right over here next to me. He's the younger brother, I believe, of the two that are here. Scooter Magooter, what's up, buddy?
Yeah, younger by 2 minutes. Hey guys, it's a fun preseason game to watch. Game from which myself and my wife and oldest son was at, and then Jarrod brought his family too. So it was their first game. Had a blast. Gave them a hell of an experience. We actually saw the Mafia Misfits, the 12th Man Mafia Misfits new house that's coming up, which is pretty amazing. It'll be ready hopefully for week 2. I'm sorry, for the home opener. But it was a good time. Can't wait to talk some Bills football. We can actually talk about a game now. Let's go, Buffalo.
Sick. I got breaking news that our guest is joining us right now. Are we bringing him in, Scooter?
Yeah, he's coming in right now. I just admitted him.
Nice.
Now sometimes the audio needs to catch up.
Yeah, he's got to accept it. That's cool. Listen, 24/7 BF fam, please welcome our friend, the guy. We've been trying to get this hooked up here for a couple months. It's Nate from Circling the Wagons podcast, part of the Buffalo Rumblings podcast network. What's up, Nate? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Perfect, man.
Cool, guys. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. Thanks for being so flexible. Sorry, kids go to sleep. Normally it's not an issue. I shouldn't say that. Normally it is an issue, but this was a little bit more of an issue than normal. So I appreciate you guys being flexible with me.
Hey, no worries, man. We're just glad you can make it. We got a couple fathers on this here live stream ourselves. So the twins, they got like a starting baseball team between them. Yep. So it's all good, man.
Welcome, Nate. It's Scott coming at you. Welcome to the show. Can't wait to get this thing going, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And down the opposite corner from me, Mr. Jarrod Reed. What's up, Jerry?
Hey, what's going on, Bills Mafia? What's going on, FLX Mafia? Like Scott said, we went to that Colts game, took Sullivan and Everett to their first game ever, and it was a blast watching there. I watched more of them than I watched the game, so I had to go back and watch some highlights, but watching my boys cheer and celebrate and eat food, that's the most important part. It was freaking sweet. Loved every minute. Can't wait to do it again. And can't wait to talk football with you guys. Let's do it. Go Bills.
Dope. We'll be getting to that game a little bit here in a minute. Before that, man, let's get to some of our people in the comments. I know Scott is chomping at the bit. He's got to eke the little giveaway thing in. Go ahead, Scott. Go ahead.
Hey guys, if you comment during the live stream, it's got to be during it. You'll be entered to win this nice little people, the latest, the greatest, the Shout version, 2023 version. It's yours. If you leave a comment, we'll spin the wheel next week for your chance to win. Definitely.
Yeah, those are pretty cool, man. You raise money for charity when you buy them. Scooter was lucky to get his hands on a couple of them. We're going to be giving one away at the Rager and probably doing another giveaway between now and the Rager right here on the K-Gun Report. We got Patrick Hughes in the comments. We got Josh Williams. What's up? We got Carl Joseph. Let's go Buffalo. We got Uncle James. What's up, Uncle James? We got Mary Jane Brown Hughes. Bring little people home to me, please. Let's go. You're entered to win. It's right there in the comments. We got our boy Paul Rossi, Lonnie Cook. Yo, if Lonnie's in the comments, she wins everything. Absolutely everything. So I don't know what to tell you guys. Like, show up next week and just pray, I guess. We got Diana. What's up, Diana? Keely Smith. John Johns. Hello, Mafia. Always a treat on Tuesdays. Go Bills. We got that Facebook user thing going on again, man, where it's not telling us half the people for some reason. Yo, just type your name in the comment if you're on Facebook, and then we can get at you, all right?
And no worries, when I go back and rewatch it, those names do appear, so I'll be able to find you still when I'm tallying it up for the giveaway.
Sweet, sweet. We got Matt Kilmer. We got Josh Cook. We got Doug. What's up, Doug? Jason. Yo, you guys killing it, man. Killing it tonight. Let's see. Oh, we got this dude, Buffalo Spartan.
Yes, is Sparta.
He says, what's up, peeps? Misfits, mount up. Oh, man. You're just filling me so full of love right now. We got Lisa Johns. Killing it, killing it, killing it. So, we're going to do a little housekeeping. Got a little bit of Bills news to address. Brandon Snell, Shell, rather, decided that he's going to retire. Breaking news today. Kind of messes up a little bit depth on that O-line. Nate, let's start with you, man. What do you think about Shell retiring?
Well, I guess I'm glad he decided to do it at a time that wasn't at halftime during the Bills football game. It's funny. It stinks. It stinks a lot because tackle is one of their weakest positions in general. Now, I don't think he had a really good training camp, and I don't think he's had a really good preseason. But I mean, we're kind of hoping that we get a little bit more depth there. I think it's not good. He's not great, but I think he's still better than Quessenberry. I mean, Quessenberry is a scary, place to be because I believe he was in there on the play where Josh got injured against the Jets. I believe he was the starting right tackle. I think Spencer Brown was injured, and the guy, I forget exactly the player from the Jets, he went around the edge and he bent Josh Allen's arm back. Quessenberry didn't even get a hand on him. So I think he might have been playing injured, but whatever. Like he's just not in his prime. He's not a viable starter or really even a great backup at this point. So the Bills they need to make some moves. They either need to, snatch a guy off waivers, but startable tackles never really make waivers. So I think Brandon Beane's going to have to trade for someone. He's going to have to find another Ryan Bates on the trade block where maybe he sends a Shaq Lawson, or maybe he sends, I'm trying to think of some trade bait names like AJ Epinesa. I don't think is trade bait necessarily, but I'm trying to think of a place where they have a lot of good talent, but he might be willing to part with some. Boogie Basham, maybe? I don't know.
I heard something crazy today.
What's that?
Nay, I heard something crazy today. Someone threw out the Shakir as a trade bait.
I see. This is what I don't get about the Khalil Shakir. Hey, can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because he reminds me of Dawson Knox's first 3 years. He makes amazing catches, and then he'll drop the ones that go right into his hands. Right, he's at that level, and people are like, he's going to get cut. First off, I don't think that's ever going to happen. It's only the second year of his rookie contract. Brandon Beane hates cutting or even trading people on their second, while they're in the rookie contract. I mean, they're so cost controlled. Why would you? But I think he's shown a lot. He had drop issues in college. This is not a new thing for Khalil Shakir. We were just hoping he'd get past him. But for all intents and purposes, Gabe Davis is getting him past him so far in training camp and preseason. I don't know if you guys saw that highlight catch today. It was like, whoa, like right over Tre'Davious White. Tre'Davious White could not believe that he caught that over him. It was crazy. I would not trade Khalil Shakir, but if you could get a startable right tackle, I mean, what'd they get Ryan Bates for? They traded him to the Eagles. I think they gave him like, it was a guy that Eli Harold or something like that. It was a nobody, guy that they were probably going to cut. So if you look at it from that standpoint, like, I mean, I would not trade Khalil Shakir whatsoever.
No.
The Bills are losing Sherfield next season. They're losing probably Gabe Davis. They can't afford to lose Khalil Shakir at this point.
Nope.
I don't know. What would you guys choose? I mean, that's kind of a crazy question, but I think they need to trade for someone at this point. I don't think you're going to find anyone off waivers.
I mean, when we first started talking about it, anyway, bringing up Shakir, like, yeah, absolutely, I don't want him to go anywhere. We need to invest in young players and develop them to stay in this system because we got some aging wide receivers that are going to be out of this game here in a little while. I mean, depth-wise, I mean, Shavers kind of like showed out. I know people like Isabella, that kind of stuff. I don't think that they have the kind of numbers and the kind of background that's going to warrant getting anybody decently in here. When we were talking about trade bait, the first position group that came to mind was safety, unfortunately. And, if anything was different, I mean, maybe there's some depth there that we might be able to shake out for some offensive line talent. But I don't want to let Rapp go. Hamlin is showing out, had a great first preseason game, looking good. I don't know. What do you think, Scott?
It's tough to think that we could trade anybody away to get someone that we think could potentially push for the starting right tackle spot. Spencer Brown's got it right now. We all know Casenberry is dangerous there, and now Shell gone. It's hard to put together. Yeah, who would we give away to get someone that could start there? That's a tough one. I think right now free agency, Jawan James is available, Marcus Cannon, Ty Nsekhe, who played for the Bills at one point, who's almost 40 years old. It'd be tough, but I like what we have. And I'm going to our own roster. I like what we have at the third left tackle. He looked like he did a good job. Richard Coriage, maybe transfer him to right tackle, see what happens. I know he's an undrafted rookie free agent that the Buffalo Bills grabbed this year, and I'm kind of excited for him. But just I'd rather, like Nate said, this happen now than after the third game of the season. And we've already got roster spots filling out. The waiver thing is going to be tough because they are allowed to keep these players until the end of the third game. So they're not going to pop up and become available unless there's a trade. So we've got something on our own house I think can fill that spot, but I don't know. I'd hate to see any of these decent backups that we have be given away for someone that's going to be potentially second or third tackle.
It's the truth, man. We can't get all crazy and pull the trigger on something out of desperation, right? Jarrod, you got anything on this?
Yeah, I think if the reason why I mentioned Shakir is because of Isabella, his nice game that he had, and they're potentially talking about how is he going to make the roster? He's a great talent. Right now he's building his resume, but how, if there's a possibility, will he make that final 53? And there are tackles out there. It's just, if you want a quality one, trade is probably going to have to be the way it goes, because there are some out there, they just aren't pushing for the starting position. Bean will bring them in because, again, we've mentioned it many times this year. It's different. This preseason is different because you don't need to make the big cuts and finalize your roster until close to the week one. So they'll bring somebody in. We'll see what happens. Maybe bring someone out of retirement. That'd be something different too.
That's true. This might actually benefit us with the 90-man cutoff being, pushed down the road, so you can actually have a lot more time to evaluate and maybe give some of these guys a shot. Maybe something happens. Scott, I like your idea of maybe switching positions and seeing what a LT might do over there. But
what's also unfortunate is that Tommy Doyle got injured this last week during the Colts game, and he was a guy that I was looking at, maybe long-term like swing tackle or something like that. But that just hasn't panned out. He had the ACL injury. We don't know how serious. I don't think at this point this injury is. I don't believe it's an ACL tear, so I think he might be on the PUP or something to start the season for now. But yeah, they're thin. They were thin at that position already, and they're even thinner now. They lost 2 guys, one for forever, and the other one is just for part of the season. I'm looking at like positions where they have some depth. Like, I mean, guard for the first time since I've been following the Bills, they have guard at depth between David Edwards and they have Ryan Bates, Osiris Torrance, and Connor McGovern, as starters in really good depth. But I think David Edwards might be someone that you could potentially move. But again, I'm not sure. I mean, just in case he's a good backup in case Connor McGovern gets hurt too. So I don't know if I want to get rid of that. I don't want to give up more blocking for Josh Allen to get more blocking somewhere else. I don't know. It's kind of like what robbing Peter to pay Paul, right?
Yeah. What about a Mance?
It will, right.
What about a Greg Mance, right? Because we already have Bates, who has switched in and backed up Mitch Morse at center. He might have a little bit of fuel in the tank, might be appealing to some people. I don't know. But
you know what you just reminded me of? I think we mentioned Ryan Bates earlier. I think there's a potential that, like, if Spencer Brown goes down, maybe he kicks out to right tackle. I mean, he's one of those guys that could potentially do it all, supposedly, and I'm not really happy with. I mean, Spencer Brown is kind of iffy to me to begin with. I don't think he just hasn't proven anything in this league yet, and we're hoping, we're projecting. We're not. We've seen nothing that make us think that he's going to be the best right tackle on his team for the long term. So, I mean, and I don't blame the guy. I mean, he played 8-man football in high school. I mean, in college, he played in a really small program, and he only played for a year or two before the COVID season, and then he lost an entire training camp because of COVID, and then he was injured last year. I mean, the guy just doesn't have the reps in to be like a standout right tackle. I mean, he has all the physical tools. It's just he doesn't have it all put together yet. I don't blame him, but that doesn't help protect Josh Allen's right side any better because he doesn't have the experience. So
absolutely, and this is his 3rd year, correct? So I mean, this would be the year historically through the McBean era where he should show out and hopefully stay healthy and maybe come into his own. We
might need to keep Dawson Knox in there a little bit longer to help him block. So that's
absolutely. We got Dr. Bruce saying Doyle has contusion and possibly an MCL strain. So
last I saw ACL was intact. So that's a good thing.
Absolutely. Hey, don't forget, everybody. We are part of the Buffalo Fan Base Network, and all of our shows are sponsored by 26shirts.com. Go on over to 26shirts.com and buy everything. Just sign your check over to them. All of it goes to charity. Del Reed and the gang are putting out really great stuff. So, do what we do best. Go check it out.
Guys, I want to quickly add that if you're going to have an injury this early and you're looking for someone to go out to that tackle spot, we have a couple defensive ends that can learn them quick. So that's another benefit of our defense being so good, is we're going to be able to filter out who can and can't right off the bat.
Good point, Jarrod. Good point. I love it. We got a little bit of AFC East news. 2 running backs going to 2 rivals. First of all, we got Ezekiel Elliott heading to the dumpster fire that is the New England Patriots right now. I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say about this here pickup, especially with Stevenson on the roster, and seemingly they need a lot of help a lot of other places, but we'll get around to that. And also, Cook signed with the Jets, which was kind of in the pipeline for a week or so. He finally put pen to paper, and they're getting paid a little bit of dough to play. I think for me, if we're going around and kind of saying which move probably means the most to the Buffalo Bills, I'm going to go with Cook. I think the Jets they got a good player that's got a little bit of gas left in the tank here. I don't know if he was necessary. They got a lot of playmakers on that offense, and now they got Aaron Rodgers at the helm, but it is interesting. I think he is a better player than Zeke at this point in his career. Nate, what do you think about the running back pickups that we have here in the AFC East now?
Can we get a free agent to not sign in the AFC East? That's like nice. A big name. I mean, geez, it feels like every single guy is trying to get to the AFC East or gets there. It's unreal, man.
Mhm.
But they picked the wrong team.
Why weren't the rest of the teams trying this hard to win the division when the Patriots and Brady were running it for 20 years?
Great point,
right? Like
dude.
if we
Great
finally
point.
get our shot and everyone's trying to bulk up for a Super Bowl run and throwing all the Aaron Rodgers is taking $35 million pay cuts, which is like unheard of. And but yeah, I mean, it's funny. I thought Dalvin Cook was a lot younger than Ezekiel Elliott. They're the same age. I mean, I think Dalvin Cook is a lot, but he has a lot less tread on the tires, or a lot more tread on the tires, I guess you would say, but he has an injury history. So I'm not really worried about the Patriots. I don't think you can ever completely underestimate them when you play them, because it is still the best coaching mind in NFL history, coaching them. So I don't think you can ever take that for granted. You got to respect them. You just don't fear them.
Yeah.
As for the Jets have a really good team. Like this is the best Jets team that we've ever seen. This is better than I'd say it's close on defensively to the Rex Ryan led team, but way better offensively. I mean,
Oh yeah.
This isn't even close, having, a future Hall of Fame quarterback. So I think it signals that they're not quite ready to play Breece Hall just yet. I think that's the first thing it signals. But I mean, Dalvin Cook's a great running back. It's just, I think, again, I never fear the Jets. I don't fear the Dolphins. I just respect them a lot more than I did before. And it's not, you're not going to run through the AFC East anymore at 6-0 or probably even 5-1 anymore. It's probably mostly going to be a 4-2, and in a bad season, you're going to go 3-3. But we can't expect the Bills to just run it like they used to. But again, this will catch up to them, because they're putting a lot of their salary cap into these players, into the Jalen Ramseys of the world, into the Tyreek Hills. Like, they can't afford to do this forever, especially like the Dolphins eventually have to pay a monster contract to Tua. Like, this isn't going to last forever for those teams unless they have that franchise quarterback. So I think it makes a good Jets team even better. So I'm not a fan of it, but I mean, the Jets are going to be good this year, guys. But we all have a tough schedule. Everyone in the AFC East has a really tough schedule. I think the over-under win total for the Bills is 10.5 or 11 from Vegas. So, I mean, that just goes to show you, like, I mean, if they win 12 games, it's an amazing season. So, yeah. I mean, I don't love it, but I get it. So I'm not a fan of it, but let's hope that this is another injury riddled year. I don't hope for players to get injured, man. But like, I mean, if Dalvin Cook has to have one of those years, I hope this is the year.
Yeah, right. Absolutely.
Well, he had an injury. He had an injury a couple of years ago. I was in the finals for the playoffs for fantasy football, and that's when Madison and them came in. Well, no big deal. I still don't think about that.
You're not bitter or anything. Like, you're not. You don't think about all the money you could have won or the trophy or anything like that anymore on a daily basis.
Nope, not at all. Jarrod, what do you think? What about Zeke? Let's switch gears to him. What do you think he means for the Patriots offense?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on who their quarterback is, right? if Zeke goes there, they're probably going to run it a little bit more. Yeah, he's a talent. He was with Dak Prescott. They never really won anything over there. It just depends on how things click. It's going to take a while for them to click. It's a new scheme. I know running backs are dubbed to be able to get into a system and produce quicker than any other position, because it's pretty much get the ball and run it. But he's aging, and that's all they have now is Mac Jones and Ezekiel Elliott. So we'll see what
they have. Mac Jones, or I mean, is he really?
Yeah, right. So if they have a good young quarterback there who showed a lot of promise this past weekend in the preseason game, but they're going to stick with him, and it's just going to be interesting to watch, see how this offense unfolds. And I think they're playing their cards a little bit with bringing him in, saying that he's probably going to be the workhorse.
Rob Mullen says Zeke brings a short game prowess, and that's about it. Paul Rossi, Zeke won't help Bill keep his job unless he can throw.
Yep.
I mean, for me, the rumblings out of New England that I've been reading about are that Bill refuses to give up on Mac Jones completely. He refuses to admit that he was wrong in that pick, and that is what's holding back the whole franchise. Scott, what do you think about this?
About the holding back in the franchise
Just
or the
the
running
Patriots,
back situation.
man. The Patriots in general, yeah.
The Patriots are. I love seeing it. They're going to turn it around eventually, but I love seeing where they are. They're a dumpster fire. Mac Jones, I don't believe is the answer. I suggested earlier this year that they draft another quarterback, and they actually didn't draft another quarterback, but I think they brought their future quarterback to their team in this Malik Cunningham, guys. He is got a gun on him if he could just hone in on his accuracy, and he can scramble and run the ball. He's the future. Bold prediction. He's starting week 8, finishing off the season for the Patriots. But as far as the running back situation goes, Ramondre Stevenson there, they brought in Ty Montgomery. They drafted Pierre Strong, a guy that I thought the Buffalo Bills should draft later in the rounds this year. Their running back room was set. So I'm not sure about this Ezekiel washed up Elliott pickup. I think it's just a show thing. He's going to be doing his thing, eating his oatmeal, whatever you want to call it, but I don't think it's an improved roster. And I'm going to go on and say that about the Jets too. It may be because Breece Hall is injured and they just want that specific running back style to be there, but I don't think he brings anything different than what we would have saw with Breece Hall there. And Michael Carter came in, did damage when he backed up Breece Hall, and who's Yannick Zonovan there looked good in the backup role. So I honestly don't think these two starstruck wide receivers back in their past are going to make a difference this year or in future years for these teams if they stay with them.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too with the Jets. I mean, that offensive line still needs some work over there. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. They got a great run game and all that, but the line hasn't really gotten any better over there.
Another thing, Swank, is you got to remember the Bills defense was building to stop the run. And these two teams brought in players that are running the ball. So they're playing right into the Bills' adjustments on defense, possibly. So it doesn't scare me that much either, because the Bills' defensive focus this year was to get guys in there to stop that run.
And to eat up quarterbacks because of aggressive Sean McDermott running that D. All right, let's stop talking about these other teams in the AFC East. Who cares, really? You know what I mean? There was a preseason game this last Saturday. These twins over here went with their families, had a great old time. The Bills won, for whatever that's worth. It's always good to see a W. Who cares? And it's nice to see some depth and being productive. What I'd like to do here is any thoughts that we have about the game, but I'd like to go kind of by position group and just talk about where we're at individually. And I think it's imperative to start on the offensive side of the ball and with quarterback. This kind of continues the conversation we had last week on the K-Gun report about what Kyle Allen looked like and what he was going to do. And all reports out of camp kind of saying that he wasn't exactly what maybe the Bills wanted in a backup. I don't think he did anything Saturday to silence those critiques. Matt Barkley, on the other hand, looked really good down the stretch. So I guess, Nate, going to you first, buddy. What do you think about the quarterback situation right now after the first preseason game of 2023?
Yeah, I was like the same as the twins because I went to the game. It was my kid's first game.
Oh, very cool.
Which was really cool. Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was awesome. I mean, it was a good day for it. Luckily, it didn't rain and pour. So that was great. But yeah, so I had to watch the highlights and watch some of it on NFL Plus later because I didn't see half of it. Whether I'm getting, yeah, exactly. I'm either getting up to get popcorn or whatever. I'm taking one of them to the bathroom or whatever. It is what it is. It's a fun time, but yeah, Kyle Allen did not. There were reports like you just mentioned, Swank, like the reports coming out of camp just this last week or so. Like Joe Biscaglia had an article in the Athletic about the depth at the position of quarterback. Like, do we really have a good plan here for backup? And then Kyle Allen has that kind of day. And what's funny is I don't think he had a terrible day. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I think it was okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't. I mean, he had the starting offensive line, the starting wide receivers minus Diggs, and he didn't look great. He didn't look bad. He did have some good throws, like that one you guys mentioned, Andy Isabella earlier. He had a really good throw to Andy Isabella across the way. He had a good a couple of good throws to Shakir. He had one that hit him right in the hands that he dropped on a third down that would have been a first down. So he had some good plays. He had a good run, but just not consistent enough. I mean, he let he held onto the ball too long at times. He looked indecisive. I wasn't in love with the game, and I don't think he deserves as much hate as he's getting, but it wasn't a good show.
No.
But Matt Barkley, on the other hand, I mean, the guy is he's just willing to sling the ball. I don't know if that's sort of, people have mentioned on social media, like he doesn't have the arm strength, so he can't get away with those throws on first stringers. I'm like, well, he kind of has in the regular season. The few times that he's actually gotten a chance, like he's thrown the ball. I don't think he's not a Ryan Fitzpatrick sort of gunslinger and that kind of guy, but man, like he's a likable guy. He was 14 for 15, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. I mean, he looked good. He looked a lot better. I shouldn't say a lot better. He looked better than Kyle Allen. And if the rumblings hadn't come out about Kyle Allen struggling in camp, I think this would be less of a big story. But there's a reason why there were rumblings out of camp, because he didn't look good at training camp, and the reporters have to report on it. So I'm really interested. I think this next game is very important. And if you heard Sean McDermott's press conference after the game, they asked him straight up, like, is there a competition at backup quarterback? And he just said, like, stone cold, like, yes. And then that was it. Like, that was more telling, I think, than anything. Of course, if you had let him talk on, he'd probably be like, well, there's a competition at every position, right? Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But I think I'm really interested to see how this next game goes, man, because Barkley may have played himself onto a roster spot, and I don't know if that's a good thing or not. I don't know if we need a better backup quarterback. I kind of wish we had Gardner Minshew or something, but not that he had an amazing game, but I love Gardner Minshew. But we'll see. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if people have speculated about Sam Darnold coming to the Bills because Brock Purdy appears to be ready? Josh Allen is really good friends with Kyle Allen. He's like best friends with Sam Darnold. And Sam Darnold, I always thought, got a raw deal. And I'd always like to see him come to the Bills, not only because he seems like a decent dude. I even liked him when he was with the Jets, but like, I think he's like a Mitchell Trubisky kind of guy. He could resurrect his career with the Buffalo Bills, especially Josh Allen, playing right next to him. So I'm really interested to see how this next game is going to go. And I think it's going to determine who the next quarterback is going to be for backing up Josh Allen.
100%. Well said, man. Absolutely. Doug says that Barkley brings energy and is Mafia. It is really fun to root for him, man. And I remember that Jets game just lit him up. Looked like a starter that day. The ups and downs.
Is I heard this on WGR. Is he the most likable backup quarterback since Frank Reich?
Ooh.
Like, I was trying to think of that, and I couldn't think of someone better than him in the last 20 years.
100%, dude. Yeah. Maybe it's because the question's posed right in my face, and all I can think is Matt Barkley and Frank Reich right now. But other than that, absolutely, yeah, I can't think of. I mean, no, Tyrod, but Tyrod was a starter for.
Eventually became a starter.
Right? So it's, I don't know. Yeah, that's a
problem with that span is, like, for so long the backups eventually became starters. Every year.
I mean, I like Jeff Toole, and I think Jeff Toole's a nice guy too. So who knows?
Yeah, dude. You could do a podcast where you listed all the backup quarterbacks for the Buffalo Bills for the entire drought period, like Jabron Hamden, like all those guys. Yeah, Jeff Toole was a good one. I forgot about him for a second.
He had potential.
yeah.
Nate, I got a question for you, Nate. We always talk about it 24/7 Buff Pandemonium about the backup quarterback, and it is the question of, if they were to come in for 4 games, could they win half of them? Do you feel that Barkley is one of those guys that if he had to come in for 4 games, could he win 2 of those 4?
So, it's funny. After the press conference, the media wanted to talk to Matt Barkley, and they talked to him. They said, "What do you think about Kyle Allen so far?" Kyle Allen's like, "Oh, he's great. He's got, all the tools. He's a great arm, blah, blah, blah. He's learning the system and blah, blah, blah." And I'm like, well, learning the system when you're less than a month away from the regular season is not how I want my backup quarterback to be. So Matt Barkley knows the system. He knows the system. He knows the players. He has experience with it. He's been here 3 of the last 4 seasons or something like that. So, and he's extremely likable. I'm sure he's good in the locker room. I mean, man, all those things aside, he's proven that he can play against starting level talent. Now, I don't think what is he, like 2-1 or something like that? And one of the teams was vying. I think it was a Dolphins game. They were vying for a playoff spot, and he beat them. I think at this point you'd have to say that Matt Barkley has a better chance to win 2 out of those 4 games than Kyle Allen. But then again, we said this last season about Case Keenum. We weren't really happy with what we saw from him.
Yeah.
And then he lit it up the second game. So, we'll see. But right now I like Barkley.
Yeah, I mean, he is the obvious choice right now, which makes some of our 24/7 BF fam a little uncomfortable, but also, I don't know, man. It's nice to have somebody to root for, right? Like the whole thing that clears all this up is Josh just does not get hurt, and we're fine.
Problems? Yeah, any issues are solved that way.
You mentioned a little bit earlier that Allen has an issue holding the ball a little bit longer, whereas when you watch Matt Barkley play this past weekend, he just threw the damn ball, drop back, threw it, no hesitation. So I think that's part of the game that Allen's going to have to pick up. If he does, let's see this weekend. Like you said, Nate, let's see what happens this weekend. Maybe Allen steps up and just drops back, throws the ball, and we'll see what happens, because that's what I saw Matt Barkley doing this weekend. He did well.
Well, to you guys' point and the point of the people in the comments here, it's all about being comfortable with the system too, So another week with that, maybe he does, maybe it starts to click and make sense. You want somebody that was that has started a couple of games in this league for multiple teams to be able to like pick some of this stuff up and at least get you through, whether it's like a smaller play calling list or not, Scott, what do you think?
It's my biggest concern with the quarterbacks right now is are the Bills going to bring someone in to be that third 54th man on the roster? That's a new change that they made this year. And Kyle Allen kind of scares me right now. I love what I see out of Barkley. Obviously, my comparison for Barkley with his accuracy and not a strong arm is Chad Pennington back in the day for the Jets. The guy didn't have a laser by any means, but he seemed to know how to read the defense quick and get rid of the ball quick and find his receivers. So I'm thinking Barkley sealed it this past week, unless Kyle Allen comes out and does something extraordinary. But I also want to see the Bills test the free agency a little bit to replace Allen. I hate to say it. Kyle Allen.
You heard it here first. Yo, when you clip that for tomorrow for the reels, just stop it before he says Kyle Allen. I'm trying to find the comment. I can't remember who said it or asked it.
I like the Chad Pennington reference, by the way. Like he was my favorite Jets quarterback if I had to pick a favorite one, just because of how good he was at, like you said, reading defenses. He did not have an arm whatsoever. Nope. He probably got like 20% of the arm that Allen does. Josh Allen, not Kyle Allen.
Again, clip that one too.
It's a good comparison. If he was as good at reading defenses though as Chad Pennington, I mean, he might be a starting level quarterback in this league. Yeah. But his processing is quicker, and he is working with everyone always makes the comparison. Well, he's playing with against third string DBs, and it's like, well, he's also playing with third string offensive linemen and third string wide receivers. I mean, those guys I'd never even heard of, like Tyrell Shavers, Aitman. I had to look them up before our podcast this last Sunday night. I'm like, who are these guys? Like, are they rookies? Yeah. Some of them are like 28 years old. I'm like, who is this guy? Yep. But yeah, I like that. And if you could get someone like that, dude, I take processing speed and accuracy any day over like the ability to throw the long ball or arm strength, because what good is it having a cannon for an arm if you can't put it where it needs to be when it needs to be there.
Right. Yeah.
And we're so lucky that Josh Allen has both of those things. That's why he's like a unicorn at his position. But yeah, I take that any day. And so far, so good. I mean, if you had to, it'll be interesting. 3 preseason games, and so far, Barkley's 1-0.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. And we'll see what this week brings. We know how these kind of turbulence happen in the preseason between quarterback play, and it all depends too. I mean, Kyle Allen was getting, as far as I could tell, mostly first team defense from the Colts side of things for the majority of his reps too. So there is a lopsidedness to the situation that comes up. But as far as execution goes, I would say Barkley, absolutely 100%. Let's move along here. It's 8:40. And again, we are joined by Nate from Circling the Wagons podcast of the Buffalo Rumblings Podcast Network. And we're so glad to have him here. And thank you guys so much for all the questions and comments. You guys are killing it. We'll move on to running backs. James Cook is going to be special this year, I think. I mean, 4 carries, 20 yards, 5-yard average, and a touchdown. Put him on the bench. Put him in plexiglass. Save him for the first week. I'm good. And the backup, I mean, everything I think that they said about Latavius Murray, I know he's old. I know he's huge. He's in shape. He looks like he's in his mid to late 20s. Yup. Like, as far as I'm concerned, man, that guy ran like a beast. And I'm stoked to have him here, especially when something like this happens where Harris is a little banged up and can't go. Nate, what do you think about the running back room?
Yeah, I mean, I love the running back room so far. I mean, it stinks that we didn't see Damian Harris, but I thought Latavius Murray did the best with what he could. And I think that, it's funny. I had someone on to talk 90. One of the Rumblings staff writers at BuffaloRumblings.com to talk 90 players in 90 days. He does one of those one player a day, and I said, give me someone that you're interested in that Bills fans aren't talking about, someone that you've read about, because he's reading about their draft profiles, however long ago, or their, most recent games. That he's like Latavius Murray, man. He's like, I don't know why he's like, but it's like he's 6'3", 233 pounds. He's like, so you think about it, he's only I guess it's still a big deal, but he's 15 pounds lighter than Derrick Henry, but just as tall. Mm-hmm. And in his last game with Denver, he had over 100 yards on 10 carries. Or 11 carries. It was ridiculous. And they won that game. The Broncos won that game. And I just don't think he gets enough credit. And I'm glad that he was able to show a little bit this last Saturday. I think he's going to be a good backup. I think he's a good between the tackles guy. And I think he's going to pick up where the Bills might be lacking as far as a receiving option behind Cook. He's not nearly as good of a receiver as Cook is, but he has that ability. He's used that ability before in the past with the Raiders, and I believe with the Vikings too. So he has the ability. So I'm looking forward to that, and I think he could pound it between the tackles. I mean, I love Cook. I mean, it's the biggest. One of the things I love about Cook the most is the fact that he can run around the edge, and we haven't had a running back that can do that since LaShawn McCoy. And LaShawn McCoy in his prime, not the last year or so of LaShawn McCoy, he wasn't that guy anymore, but for the while he was, and we just kind of missed that. Singletary, I loved Singletary, but he just didn't have that extra burst. If he got through, a couple of players and didn't get taken down, there was no way he was ever run into the house unless half the team fell down, So
yeah,
that's kind of how it was. And I like Devin Singletary, but I was kind of hoping for more. James Cook is that guy. He can, if you give him a hole, he'll find it. He just needs to work on not falling down at the line of scrimmage by mistake this year. He kind of did that several times. And then also he's just got to work on his pass blocking. And I think that might be one of those things where Latavius Murray becomes that third down back in obvious passing downs if they don't trust James Cook to pass block for Josh Allen. Because James Cook, he's not the only one that has this issue. A lot of rookie running backs have this issue, and he's a small guy. He's just not very big. So I'm thinking Latavius Murray might play for that role, but I love this. It sounds like Damian Harris and Latavius Murray are what we hoped Zach Moss would be.
Yeah.
So we got some speed for once, at the starting level position. I'm excited. I love this group more than I've liked in a long time.
Amen.
Absolutely. 100%. Rob Mullen says, in regards to Cook's TD run, keep in mind he got a clear path due to one player, Trent Sherfield. My man, Trent Sherfield. He's a devastating blocker and will be a factor in improving our run game and yak by other receivers downfield. Great point, brother Rob.
And if you noticed, I mean, Rob brings up a good point, because Trent Sherfield, I believe, when they took out the starting wide receivers like Gabe Davis, I believe they took out Sherfield too. in that role. They could have gotten a longer look at him, but they took him out too. So like that's a good sign. Not only is he's the first backup to Diggs, but they like him. And you can kind of tell, like with certain guys coming off the field, sometimes I think it tips the Bills' hand as far as who they like a little bit more, who they think they need to get a little bit better look at. Like Dean Jackson was brought out after 5 snaps, I think it was, after the interception.
Yeah.
So I know they wanted to get, yeah, I know they wanted to give Elam and Benford more looks, but I think that was pretty telling. I mean, if they loved Kyer Elam as much as they loved Dean Jackson, not only would he have been starting, you know, I think Elam was, I can't remember who was starting across from Dean Jackson now that I mention it. Might have been Elam, but
Trey was out there.
Trey was out
oh,
there.
that's right.
Yeah,
Trey
yeah.
was out there. You're right. Thank you. He
Yep.
he wasn't held out that game. But yeah, so when those guys both went off, you know, Benford and Elam went in, and you know, it wasn't Benford and Jackson or Elam and Jackson. It was Jackson. So yeah, so Trent Sherfield I'm looking forward to him. I think that depending on how Gabe Davis, if he doesn't get re-signed, I think Sherfield might be one of those guys that they bring back, because Gabe Davis is a great run blocker. I mean, you got Trent Sherfield in the same. I like there's a lot of guys on this team that have 1-year contracts that could potentially get extended next year, depending on how well this year's goes for them in this system.
Yep.
Absolutely. Sherfield's one of those guys, like ever since we signed him, he's one of my favorites. And I don't know, just his journey, he's clawed his way up into a starting role on each of the 2 teams he was on before he came to Buffalo. I think that there is a spot for him on this team, and I absolutely agree. I think there's an opportunity for him to be one of those players that gets extended, and will be here next year and maybe the year after. Moving on to the receiving core. I mean, like you were saying, Nate, a lot of no names, a lot of guys that we were like, oh my God. Actually, the only reason I knew about Andy Isabella as much as I did was because Scott's talked about him at a decent length. He's one of his favorite guys. But, you know, you're talking about Kysene Johnson, Marcel Adderman, Tyrell Shavers, like Patman, whatever. We're going down the list here. Who? Huh? Scott, looking at this receiving core from last Saturday, who's your guy and what's going on?
I'm glad you guys brought up Trent Sherfield. Nothing is better than bringing out a 3 wide receiver look, knowing that you could still run with a blocking with Gabe Davis and Trent Sherfield out there. That's going to open up the run big time. It's going to make defense respect that a lot more. But my guy, guys, I mean, these big wide receivers, the no-namers that we're talking about, the 8-men, the Patmans, the Shavers, are making it hard for the Buffalo Bills front office to figure out who number 6 is going to be, even maybe number 5. These guys showed up. We didn't know their names until this week because we heard a lot of their names this week. Obviously, Shorter wasn't mentioned a lot, but I think he'll play a huge role this week in the first half of this Pittsburgh Steelers game. But I think our wide receiver core is a lot better than a lot of people were thinking it was. I mean, we've obviously got Gabe Davis, Diggs, Sherfield, Hardy, Shakir, and Shorter. But that 6 and 5, I think, are up. I think there's a lot to play around with that. So I'll keep it short and simple. There's going to be a lot to watch in camp, and our starting 6 that are going to show up every Sunday is going to be very difficult to guard, regardless of who it is.
100%, man. I think there's a lot of depth here, and it's something that we haven't had in years prior. I think it's been one of those things where, yeah, everybody wanted us to swing for the fences, get a big name free agent in here. But like we've talked about on the show, man, Gabe was banged up last year, and he still put up significant numbers for a number 2. And I can't wait to see what he can do this year, especially with the supporting cast coming up behind him. Jarrod,
he's making catches in practice too. That Gabe Davis is doing well.
That's right. That's right.
Very good.
What do you think about these guys here, Jerry?
I like the Cinderella story with Isabella. He's doing the kick returns and he's catching balls and getting upfield. He's quick. He's fast. I think that's going to be a guy we have to definitely pay attention to. And another guy, the 8-man guy. He's one of those XFL guys that they brought in. 2 catches for 41 yards, catching the ball in the NFL and being productive. So it's going to be awesome to watch how this wide receiving room breaks down by the end of the year, who they're going to put on, practice squad, who they're going to keep each week. And it's just, because then you have to break down slot versus outside guys, right? So it's going to be interesting to watch, and I can't wait to see what happens. But I'm rooting for all these guys, to be honest with you. But Isabella is the one guy I might, if I was to pick one, he's going to be the guy that I'm going to be rooting for hard.
Jarrod's gonna be Isabella versus Hardy, and guys, we talked about this earlier. That 5th and 6th wide receiver might be that trade bait for that tackle that we're looking for.
I tell you, a lot of it's going to come down to special teams too. Nate,
What else can you do?
Yeah, exactly. Nate, what else? What do you think about this receiving core right now?
Yeah, I mean, if I had to guess right now, our 6 guys, Diggs, Davis, you said Hardy, Sherfield make the team. I think it's going to be Shakir and Shorter making the team, only because Shorter has, I mentioned before, and I can't think of any Bills players that the coaching staff lets go of way too early. If anything, they used to keep these drafted wide receivers or whoever like much longer than they should sometimes. Like think of Cody Ford, think of O'Shawn Joseph, like those guys, like they just, some of them just never flash at all. And it's just like, what are you doing? And eventually they traded Ford, but like I don't see them giving up on Khalil Shakir, and Justin Shorter's a rookie. There's no way they're going to get, especially if he can play special teams. He's supposed to be a really good gunner. So, I mean, you have not only depth at wide receiver there, but so I don't know if they keep 7 because they include Shorter as like one of those special team gunners, but yeah, that's who I think the starting 6 are. And then I think like, then it's going to be really interesting to see who they keep on their practice squad. And I think Andy Isabella makes the practice squad for sure, because he's backup depth at punt return and kick return, which he didn't look that good, honestly, on Saturday. He looked okay. That speed did not show up on that game. He got nailed a few times, but he looked good in the slot, and that's where we care about, right? So the Bills don't have a ton of slot receivers behind Hardy. It's really just Khalil Shakir after that. So it's been Hardy and Shakir playing the slot most of training camp, and Khalil Shakir can play both, the slot and the outside position. So no matter what, they keep him, I'm almost positive. And yeah, they don't give up on guys usually after one season. It's just not their thing, and it makes sense. And I think Brandon Beane feels bad about that, because he traded, God, why am I blanking on him? The Pro Bowl All Pro guard
Wyatt Teller.
Wyatt Teller. Thank you.
Yep.
Only when I need to talk about it, I forget the guy's name. Otherwise, I can pick it out like, in the middle of the night when I wake up from a bad, cold sleep.
Wyatt Teller.
Why did you get traded? But yeah, like I think those are your 6. I feel pretty confident about that, but I'm really interested. I think they keep Andy Isabella. I don't think he necessarily gets picked up off of waivers unless he continues to have another strong preseason, because the Bills did just sign him, as like he wasn't waived or anything. They just signed him, I believe. So as a free agent, I mean, he's been in the league for 5 years. People know about him. They'll either keep it. So I think you can stash him. I wouldn't be surprised. I know we haven't gotten to defensive end. I would be surprised if you see a veteran get cut and possibly stashed on the defensive end side, like Shaq Lawson, just because they have so many guys at that position. And I don't think anyone's going to trade for Shaq Lawson, but I don't think anyone's going to poach him off the practice squad. So like, I think Andy Isabella is one of those guys. And then I think they keep another 1 or 2 of those other wide receivers you guys mentioned, either Keyshawn Johnson, not the Michon, but Keyshawn Johnson, Desmond Patman, Tyrell Shavers. Now, Tyrell Shavers did have that drop when Kyle Allen threw it to him that ended up being a pick 6. But I don't know if that's all on Tyrell Shavers, because it looked like it was thrown behind him. And like, if you saw that play looked like it got blew up, that screen pass, and a good quarterback probably would have thrown that into the dirt. So again, another reason why I'm not as big of a fan of Kyle Allen, but I think, any of those guys, I mean, Isaiah Coulter could have a shot. I mean, this is a good wide receiving room. Like you said earlier, Marcel Aitman, there's guys that can play, and those guys, like, there's some size. I didn't realize how big these guys are. Marcel Aitman, 6'4", Isaiah Coulter, 6'2". Andy Isabella is a smaller guy. He's a slot guy. Keyshawn Johnson, 6'1". Desmond Patton, 6'4". Tyrell Shavers, 6'4". I mean, these are big dudes. So,
seeing a trend. I think it was interesting. I saw I read an article about Shavers and how people are giving him a lot of credit, because after that big drop from Kyle Allen with the pick 6, which again, I agree with you. I don't think it was all on Shavers. He came back and scored that touchdown, and kind of made the best of his second opportunity. So, bouncing back and having like the mental fortitude and the strength to be able to get through that and then make that kind of play to follow it up, it's relevant, I think. And he definitely moved up a little bit of a notch in my book, and I think it'd be worthwhile right now after one preseason game, because we know that a season is determined by one preseason game. Everybody,
well, if you can fight those battles in one game, you can do it the whole season. So it looks good on your resume for sure.
I'm glad you brought that up, Swank, because it was like I was glad that Tyrell Shaver showed up after that, but I was also glad that the coaching staff wasn't like, all right, today's not your day, you're sitting out the rest of the game for that. Like, they gave him the opportunity to, redeem himself. So I mean, hats off to the coaching staff and Tyrell Shavers for actually, following through and doing it, because I mean, this is an undrafted guy out of San Diego State, like, not. So I think they looked at that and they're like, let's give him a shot. Let's see what he can do. Let's see if he's gonna, either if it's gonna fuel him or sink him. And luckily it fueled him, and he did great. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, I think it's maybe it's different now because the cut down date is pushed back, or maybe because it's the preseason. I don't know. I know that the coaching staff got a lot of flack for the way that they handled James Cook fumbling on his first touch, right? Which he's never fumbled since. And he got benched and his patties whacked. And then all of a sudden his load got bigger throughout the rest of the second half of the season. And you can argue that, okay, you stifled his growth because you didn't give him touches because he's a rookie, and then it's mentally taxing on him because he was punished and now it's in his head. Or you can look at it like these guys kind of know what they're doing. They let him dip his toe in halfway through the season. His load starts to get heavier, and all of a sudden he is now the James Cook that is ready to take over this offense in his second year. So, I mean, the whole, buzzy word, trust the process kind of thing, like, I'm on board for it, man. I think people get too wrapped up in the present future, or the present past rather, like, since McDermott's been here. Like, if you've been a fan since McDermott took over, that's all you know, and it's really easy to like be like, well, he didn't do this right. But still, if you just go back a little further in our past, he is absolutely the best coach we've had since Marv Levy, and possibly better. I think it's like real hard. I said possibly. Don't get all me on me. I think it's harder to contradict what he's done. And I've said it on the show before. Like, I think I'm good with him. He could be in an iron lung and 95 years old, and he can absolutely coach this team for me. He got us out of the drought. He's doing everything the way I want it done. Like, I'm good with it. So, but yeah, it's just interesting to that aspect, I guess. Here we are hitting 8:59. It looks like we're probably just going to get through the offense. We have talked at length about the offensive line previous to this. I think let's hit on something that didn't really show up, I don't think, too much on Saturday, and that is the tight end group. I was hoping to see Dalton Kincaid score 7 touchdowns and, have 300 yards and all that Superman kind of stuff. But in reality, didn't happen.
I don't think he even saw 7 snaps, did he?
I don't think so, man. Yeah,
they took him out. They took him out soon. They didn't want to show too much.
Yeah. Right? And I like that. That's fine with me. But I mean, I guess just projecting going into it, how do we feel about this tight end room? And Nate, I'll let you lead it off, buddy.
I mean, I feel like we've said this about a couple of different positions. This is the best positional group of tight ends that we've ever had. I mean, Dawson Knox, for all of his issues, catching the ball in his first few seasons, I still strongly believe he's the best tight end that we've ever had, like physically and ability wise. I mean, sure, he doesn't have the stats at this point, but he's darn close after only 4 seasons or 5 seasons. I can't remember, but I mean, I like Dawson Knox a lot. I think he's one of the few examples in the NFL of like a guy that gets it together after struggling for so long. And the Bills showed a lot of patience there. And then you have this new shiny toy in Dalton Kincaid, and the things that the Bills can do with their offense, specifically because of Dalton Kincaid, is just this provides a level of offense that we've never seen a Buffalo Bills team have before. and it's gonna like. Have you ever like played Madden and then just did hurry up offense and kept the same positional grouping in, right? Like you got your 3 wide receiver sets or whatever, and then you could just run the whole playbook, right? Like this is what the Bills can do without they can run almost the entire playbook with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox on the field, and then Gabe Davis, Diggs, and James Cook. And you can do whatever you want. Do you want to run a power scheme where you have both of them blocking for you? You can do that for James Cook. Do you want to run like whatever the defense gives you? Let's say they give you a nickel look and they bring out 3 cornerbacks. Well, then you can just run at that cornerback or run away for whatever. You can run the ball in that situation. And it's not that Dalton Kincaid's a bad blocker. Like he's pretty good, but he's a willing blocker. He'll get better. And Dawson Knox is a good blocker. So like you have that ability. And let's say they decide that they think you're going to run it. So they bring a third linebacker on the field. Okay, well then just have Dalton Kincaid run up the seam and just dump it over his head, because he will match up against almost every linebacker in the entire NFL. And it's a plus matchup. Yep. And then if you get, let's say they go heavy and they decide to double Kincaid or whatever, well then just throw it to Stephon Diggs, you know, like you normally want to. Like the entire playbook is so open. Let's say you get a good look and you decide that you want to pass the ball. Well, then just run James Cook out, and now you have an empty set, and you could like it's exciting because these are the best receivers the Bills have had since Cole Beasley was here. Yeah. And I think that, you know, Kincaid's not a Cole Beasley, but he's going to provide Josh Allen that safety blanket in the slot that he didn't have last year. And I think that, you know, that was a big struggle for him. He didn't have Cole Beasley. And even when Cole Beasley was here, he wasn't the same Cole Beasley. So like, and they were desperate to try to get something like that. Unfortunately, Isaiah McKenzie didn't work out. I mean, it was 6 seasons. I mean, you think we would have known by then, like whether it was going to work out or not. But preseason, you know, training camp warrior, it just didn't turn out when the lights were on, when the preseason was over. So I'm excited for Dalton Kincaid so much more. I mean, every single day after the draft pick, I've been more and more excited about him. People always say that tight ends struggle, and they do acclimating to the NFL, but not if you do it right. Not if you use them as a receiving weapon like they've been used in college, and you ask them to do a little bit more than they did in college, maybe blocking wise, but not too much on their plate where they can't handle everything. So I'm excited. I think Dalton Kincaid could be the key to this offense. And if you're looking at like ways that we get to a Super Bowl because of things that are different this season than last season, he is one of those reasons that the Bills do that. So I think he's going to be a big factor, and you know, I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do.
100%, man. Well said. We got a couple comments that I want to get to because
here we go, folks. We're in overtime.
That's right. It's Patrick Hughes' favorite time of the show, where we go over an hour because that's what we do. We're going to wrap it up here pretty quick, though. Don't forget, leave your comments now if you have not for the Little People giveaway. Yes, we're not giving away little people. We're giving away toys. Who you got in the box there, man? Who is it? Josh, Dalton? Or no, not Dalton. That's Dawson.
Dawson, Josh, Von Miller, and it looks like it might be one of the Buffalo Head guys.
Nice.
I'm saying that Dawson one is pretty cool. He's got his headband on. That's the one I'm gonna want. If I would just take one out of those and run away with it, that would be it.
You can't break up the set, man. You can't break up the set. What are you doing?
So I don't even open the box. I got all 3 of them. I don't open the box.
You just tell your kids these toys are to look at. They're not to play with.
Oh, Jack has his own. I have my own.
Oh, okay. Nice. Don't forget also, we are part of. Go ahead.
Buff Fan Base.
Oh, I was waiting for you. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. Part of the Buff Fan Base Network, and our show is sponsored by 26 Shirts, guys.
That's right. Go over to 26shirts.com and see what Del Reed and the gang got. Give them all your money. Doesn't matter. It all goes to charity. Wrapping up this tight end thing. Yeah, I think with the schemes that we could possibly have, right? And we have a coordinator going into his second year. We were talking a little bit before the show started about Josh Allen helping call plays in the second half of that game last week. these are all signs, I think, of everything kind of coming together, hopefully, right? There's a lot of like national sports media pundits that are saying that this team didn't really change offensively, and I beg to differ. I think this offensive line got better, a lot more depth. I think that running back room obviously got rearranged. I think wide receiving wise, we have a crazy amount of depth right now, and literally can pick your poison. And then tight end wise, are you kidding me? Like, the upside is insane. I would say that the only thing that didn't get better was the backup quarterback situation. And to me, like, hopefully if all goes well, we're heading down the right path. I think it's going to come down to how they're coached, what the scheme actually is, and how creative they can be, because you have the weapons now. When we were talking about Kincaid and the possibilities with him, I'm thinking too, yeah, you got Diggs, you got Gabe, that slot position with Hardy, man. I think that could be like a speedster guy that gets out there that you're like, oh, holy shit, he's deep right now. Like, he's another guy that I think could pull coverage. And I think you could scheme that open as long as, you just run it, get some reps, get it figured out and get comfortable with it. And man, this offense could be super dangerous. It already is. It already is with what was last year, but now I just think it's all there. They gotta make it happen.
So like they can have a lot of different looks. They can have a lot of different looks, and it all depends on who they bring to the 53-man roster. If you wanted 4 wide receivers and having Isabella and Hardy in the slot, there's your 4-3 guys to stretch the field. You have Gabe Davis and Diggs on the outside. I mean, it could be very dangerous. And Ken Dorsey has a lot of offensive plays to choose from with those guys in there. Any of those guys.
100%. Jerry, what do you think?
I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
So Joel Wilson was the only tight end to get a reception this past weekend. Joel Wilson. But Dawson Knox and Kincaid were blocking for those running backs. And I wanted to say really quick, we saw in that blue and red game, our running back there get in the middle and go outside, cook. And then this past weekend, we saw him go right to the outside. The only reason why he averaged 5.0 yards a carry is because the end zone was there. We got these guys on the inside. We got these guys on the outside. And Swank, like you just said, those slot guys are going to benefit from that no matter who it is. So this defense, we got 2 tight ends too. It's not just one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if they can stay healthy and we get those right pieces moving, this Josh Allen's going to have a heyday. And you haven't seen an offense like this.
And Jarrod, I'm going to piggyback off you. I'm going to piggyback off you, Jarrod, and say we saw a lot without seeing a lot. The Bills played that 12 personnel quite a bit this week, and only 1 reception from a tight end. So we saw what kind of offense they're going to bring out, but we didn't see what they're going to do with this offense. So it's that's going to make you excited.
100%. Fellas, it's been a great night. We've had a good time. Thanks so much to our guest, Nate, from Circling the Wagons podcast, right here down in the Mid-Lakes region, I do believe. Appreciate you being on, Nate, and would love to have you back. What we do at the end of the show, here's a little final thought. We'd love for you to plug all of your socials and your podcast, and just give us your final thought on the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I mean, thank you guys so much for having me on. I mean, I've been following you guys since I believe the beginning when you guys first started making podcasts, and
Awesome.
I mean, look how far you guys have come. It's been really cool to see. When we started 7 years ago, maybe has it been 8? However long McDermott's been here is when we started our podcast, and like we were one of the few podcasts that was doing regular weekly podcasts because no one else was doing it. That's the only reason we started it. We didn't think we were any better than anyone else, but there was just like, there was no one doing it. So we're like, oh, like, why not? Like, we can talk about football just like anyone else, or we can talk about our favorite team. I'm going to do it anyway. Every time I see my friends, might as well do it into a microphone. And, and it's really cool. Like seeing like other ones pop up like yours and like a few, like I love Buffalo fan base. Like I'm a huge fan of Justice. Like he's the man over there. So I'm glad that you guys are part of that. It's really cool. Like the Wandering Buffalo over there, Buffalo fan base too. Like I'm tight with those guys. Like it's so cool watching you guys, doing what you're doing. And like, I mean, just bringing that sort of excitement of being a Bills fan and like the ups and downs with it, and trying to entertain the folks at home. So no, I appreciate it. We're on the Buffalo Rumblings podcast network, so we drop at least one episode per week on after the games, and then sometimes we'll throw in some interviews and stuff in between them, like kind of like what you're doing now. Like I'll have some other content creators or maybe some media personalities, but it's just fun talk, man. It's just three friends, just like you guys, three friends talking Bills, like trying to analyze, trying to give some perspective of what we see, and maybe it's not always right. We always try to give you something to think about, and then if we laugh every once in a while, that's always a good thing too. Try to keep it lighthearted. I mean, geez, there's enough things in life, especially now I'm in my 40s. There's enough things in life that'll depress you or whatever, like we need something. We need a break from that, So our podcast is like that. And we've been fortunate. We've been growing and stuff like that. But no, this is cool. I really appreciate you, having me on and stuff like this. And I'm glad so Swank, you brought up just before this last segment about the national media not giving the Bills any credit. And I completely see where you guys are coming from, because I see this team being better at just about, they're either the same or better at every single positional group besides middle linebacker. And even so, we don't know for sure that it'll be worse, but we're probably guessing it will be.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, this is a great team. This is a potentially better team than what it was last year when they went 13-3. They lost 3 games by a total of 8 points. So I'm glad that they're getting so much less press coverage by the media, because Vegas still thinks we're a Super Bowl threat. They still have us as the best odds to win the AFC East by like almost 3 times more than the Jets or the Dolphins. So I think we still have a great team as long as Josh is healthy. Like as long as they, keep him healthy, they keep him upright. I think this is going to be a good season. I'm excited to see what Ken Dorsey can do. He has no excuses anymore. He has more talent than he's ever gotten. He's got more blocking than he's ever gotten. So this is the season for him to step up. And yeah, I think this is great. That nobody's talking about us, and I think this is where the Bills need to be. They need to be underdogs. If you listen to the Chiefs and their like Super Bowl speech or whatever, they're like, nobody believed in us. They didn't think we could win the division. It's like, okay, well, let's give the Bills some of that some of that attitude on their way out into this season. Like nobody believes in us. Okay. Just manufacture. I don't care how you have to get it. Just not being the Super Bowl darling is going to be a good thing for the Bills this year. And I'm here for it.
Absolutely.
Oh, by the way, I forgot to say I'm on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all those places at Circling the Wagons Podcast or at CTW Pod, depending on the thing. So yeah, I forgot. I'm there too. We're all there.
I love it, man. Jerry, what do you got for us tonight?
Yeah, just Nate, thanks for joining us. We're definitely going to be calling you back. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up Saturday. I think it's a 6:30 game. Usually when the games come along, when we start getting into regular season, we're going to start talking about what we're worried about and what key matchups are going to be in the game. But for the preseason game, I was thinking about, I'm not really worried about what Pittsburgh has to offer. I'm worried about what my guys are going to do against them. So pick your guys, pick your battles, pay close attention, come back next Tuesday and let's talk about it. Let's talk about what guys you thought shined, what guys you thought maybe went down, went up. So that's an exciting part of this preseason, is seeing all this talent and how it filters out. Love talking football with you guys. This is, just 3 friends getting together, talking about football. And you said it. We don't know if we're right or wrong about most things, but we just have fun doing it. And we love bringing everybody along with us that has an opinion, because, you're all right with their opinion and we can go anywhere with it. So can't wait to see you guys next Tuesday. Go Bills Saturday against the Steelers. And I'll see you all next Tuesday when we'll be giving away those shout little peoples. Go Bills.
Oh, yeah. Scooter Magooter, what do you got, bud?
Yeah, I love it. It's a fan first perspective. You both said it. It is what it is. We've been wrong most of the time, guys. And I think of the fans that follow us
Speak
and
for
hang out with
yourself,
us and
man.
talk Bills football with us are all still hanging out with us, right? I mean, I love the participation in our fan group. And Nate, thanks for definitely joining us. Had an awesome conversation with you, man. Their wealth of knowledge is definitely welcome here at the 24/7 Buff Pandemonium. But guys, on to the game next week. A lot to evaluate. This is a Pittsburgh Steelers, a 3-4 defense that's going to bring pressure on the offense, pressure to the quarterback, known for sacks is Pittsburgh Steelers defense. So if Barkley's starting now and he's playing with backups, it might be a different story, but we're hoping for the similar story out of Barkley. Love it, guys. Sunday sessions is starting come Monday Night Football. You'll see us an hour and a half before the show starts. Another Buff fan base network production and presented by 26 Shirts. We can't wait to get started with myself, Swank, and our friend at the Thomas Take Sports Podcast, Ryan Thomas.
RT.
The season started. It's official. We're talking football. I can't wait for it. Enjoy the time we have, guys, together. It's awesome. Go Bills.
Hell yeah. Guys, don't forget, September 2nd, 2023, we got the regular season Rager coming at you down at Reinvention Brewing in Shortsville, New York. We'll have special guest of honor, Mr. Mark Maddox, ex-linebacker of the Buffalo Bills. He will be in attendance for his second year in a row. We're raising money for his Help One Foundation. A ton of raffles. You got anything? What do you got over there? You got the door prize right there, Scooter Magooter? For you
got the door prize right behind me. For
$5, you get in, right? Meet and greet, hang out with Mark. He's a great dude. We got super fans. We got music. Endless Bound Derelicts, what's up? And with that $5 entry fee, you get entered to win that Allen Color Rush signed authenticated jersey just for your $5 entry. Then we have other raffles on top of that, more jerseys, more 8x10s helmets, all sorts of really cool stuff. Some of it donated from us, some of it donated from friends, some of it brought in from other people. We got a helmet that's going to be signed by Mark, all sorts of cool stuff.
Just finished painting that bad boy.
Hey.
All you need to do is put the stickers on it. I'm hoping to show everybody next Tuesday what that final product looks like.
Nice. Yes, Jerry's a helmet extraordinaire over there. But yeah, come down, hang out, man. It's for a good cause. And we're going to be doing live streams, live podcasts for part of the day. Reinvention's releasing their Super Fanatics Cream Ale that day. It's a good time. It was a super good time yesterday, but we're trying to pack as many people as we possibly can down there. So tell your friends, the event's out on Facebook. Go get it. Maybe we can even get Nate to stop by. It's family friendly. But we're definitely going to be having some beers. So come on down, hang out. Also, Nate, thanks so much for being a part of this, man. We appreciate what you do. We appreciate everything you said. And thank you for paving the way for dudes like us who started out just talking football in the back of the Clipper parking lot on a Friday night and deciding to get all nerded out and turn it into a live stream. So make sure you guys at home follow Circling the Wagons. And, man, go Bills.
Go Bills.
See you next week. Go Bills.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.
This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous groups that we're dealing with now. This is a dangerous